Welcome to the latest edition of Business Insights. I'm Ian Girling from Dorset Chamber. Today I'm with Simon Cassin of Voucher Training, who are Dorset Chamber business partners who specialise in health and safety training for businesses. Now, with all the talk about businesses starting to return to work, there's going to be some really important points for businesses to understand around risk assessment and health and safety. So this afternoon we're going to start to explore, some of those issues. So Simon, good afternoon. Really good to see you.
Good afternoon, Ian. Yeah, I'm really pleased to be invited to contribute to this session. So thank you very much.
No, it's great to have you. So first of all, Simon, I think just tell us really briefly about the award that you've just been recognised for internationally.
Yes, it's the CEO award. I've been shortlisted. I haven't necessarily won it, and it's to do with leadership and strategic thinking in regard of health, safety, well-being, mental health, both with your employees and the wider community. So I think the Health and Wellbeing Award that obviously we sponsor with for the Chamber, maybe that contributed to it as well. So.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
So Simon, I think the Prime Minister gave out some slightly mixed messages on last Sunday evening, when he talked about returning to work.
Yeah.
Our understanding is very much so. If you can work from home, you should continue to work from home wherever possible, and you should only be returning to work where that is not possible to do so. I don't think the message was entirely clear from the Prime Minister. Since then, further guidance has come out for businesses from the government in terms of very sector-specific type guidance. So here's the stuff that's come out for businesses like ours that are office-based, and that really contains the requirements that we need to follow when our employees return to work and we make the environment completely safe for our staff. And obviously, health and safety has changed dramatically with coronavirus and the risks that presents.
Yeah.
So the first kind of point, Simon, I'd like to pick up. I've heard talk about health and safety audits and risk assessments. What's the difference between a risk assessment and a health and safety audit?
So an audit is, whether that be health and safety or a financial audit, is a way of checking that you are following your existing policies and procedures. Whereas a risk assessment is looking at the hazards and risks associated with the kind of work that you do. So if you think about it in relation to COVID-19, we might have really good policies, procedures and systems in place, but they're appropriate for a different set of hazards and a different way of working. I think there can't be many businesses out there who have, before all this started, and there will be some, but there can't be many, who have completed risk assessments and have systems of work which are completely appropriate for the current status in relation to COVID, etc. Yeah,
I completely understand. So every business essentially should be looking at doing a risk assessment as part of its policies around returning staff to work.
Definitely, and it's mentioned throughout the guidance documents from the government. And when you read through it, there's quite a lot of it there is just reinforcing existing legislation. There is laws that are already in place, health and safety laws that say that businesses have a requirement to carry out risk assessments. Strangely enough, there's a bit of legal terminology there that says if you have 5 or more employees, they should be recorded. I would say if you've got less than 5 employees, you still have to do a risk assessment, but I think if you don't record it, how can you show somebody that you've done it?
Well, let's go back a step. Why is it so important that every business does a risk assessment? It sounds like a silly question, but I think sometimes health and safety is kind of one of those issues. We'll do it because we've got to do it, and actually we need to do it because we should be doing it. It's the right thing to do. So let's talk about why risk assessment is so important.
Well, if you look at the concept of risk, and I won't go into too much depth, but there are many different risks relating to business. I mean, if you could look at a risk to business would be a lack of customers. So there's lots of people who are experiencing this right now.
Yeah, of course.
There is an explicit requirement to carry out a risk assessment for work-related hazards. And a hazard is something that has the potential to cause harm. So I think the majority of people will understand that there's this terrible disease out there right now, and that has the potential to cause harm to both employees, visitors, customers, and even our family at home. So to think about risk assessment in the way we did in January or before that is not necessarily going to give us what we need now. So there are many businesses that will have completed risk assessments based on a method of work that didn't consider COVID. And it's really important that they go back and the systems of work which they had put in place and have a look at them and consider whether they are actually capable of being achieved in the way that they've done it previously, given the nature of the hazard of COVID-19.
Well, I guess this is so different as well, because I guess traditionally what we would do, we would think of health and safety in the workplace. So this is something that could happen to me when I'm at work, but actually is not relevant when I go home. But actually, we've got a situation now with COVID-19, with a highly infectious disease. If we don't take that seriously within the office, and people take that to their homes, to their families, vulnerable people, elderly parents, you know, it's so different to the traditional kind of health and safety view, isn't it, I think?
It is, you're right, yeah. I mean, obviously we're all aware of the COVID-19 virus, but we're also increasingly aware of when people are home working, the impact that that may have on them, on their mental health and well-being, and also other members of their family. I mean, lots of people right now are trying to work from home and juggle homeschooling and goodness knows what else, you know, poorly members of the family or whatever that might be. And what I hope is that when we risk assess work in the future, we risk assess more than just the building and the activities that we do within our workplace, and understand the wider implications on people or our employees and even family members.
So, you know, what the fundamental principles of a risk assessment? How does a business go about doing that at a very basic level?
Well, the first thing you've got to do is to think about what could cause you harm in your workplace, and that can be any number of things depending on what kind of workplace that you do or the work activities. If we sort of focus on two main issues now, and that would be COVID and stress, and the impact of stress and the influence of that, and the factor that will increase the likelihood of some form of mental health problem, not necessarily an illness, but a problem. So I would say that immediately those two areas are areas where businesses need to look at. That is not forgetting reduction of numbers of staff, social distancing can also impact on things like manual handling, can impact on things like operating machinery, it can impact on things like footing a ladder. I mean, how do you maintain social distancing if somebody's footing the ladder for you? Well, that is quite a challenge, isn't it?
I think it throws up so many questions. I mean, I see it as a lot of work to do, but quite straightforward in an office environment such as ours. It's really the social distancing, but then we're going to have to look at how people use the bathrooms, how people use the kitchens.
Yeah.
You know, when we're a very small business, the implications for construction, manufacturing, you know, are huge and quite complex, and particularly for workers that may be working in confined spaces as well. That's very difficult. So
yeah,
I think businesses face some real challenges ahead.
Yeah, I do, but I think that for many who can't work from home, I think for many, if they get their employees, get their teams working together to do this, I think this is a wonderful opportunity to open the conversation around health and safety issues. And I'm sure there are plenty of businesses out there that maybe already take this approach. So for me, the first thing that I would do is, and I know some people have already come back to work, but what I would do is I would split my organization into small manageable groups, obviously spending time, social distancing. I understand that can be a challenge. You know, if your meeting rooms are small. But what I would say is, I would say to the teams, what do you think are the problems that we've got? What do you think are our challenges for, in particular, COVID-19? Where do you think we might have an issue?
Yeah.
And if you can get the team to say, well, yeah, well, when we do this, oh, no, the manager might go, or the safety officer might go, I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point as well. Getting that kind of team buy-in and you know, the team contributing to that. I think another aspect is some people are going to be quite nervous about coming back to work.
Definitely.
You know, I think culturally people have got quite used to working at home and adapted to that. Things are going to be very, very different when we come back. Phased returns, how close people are to each other, all those sorts of things. So I think getting your team to kind of be a key part of that, I think, is a you know, a really good step forward. Let's just go back to the fact about recording risk assessments.
Yeah.
I've seen a requirement that's coming through now from the government that they really expect to see businesses with 50 or more staff to publish their risk assessment on their website.
Yeah.
To me, that sounds like a really sensible thing to do. And as I said to you earlier before we started this, actually, that'd be something that I would be quite keen to do as an organisation much smaller than 50. But actually, I think it just publicly demonstrates a good, sensible approach to health and safety. What's your view on that?
I would agree. I agree 100% with what you've said, but there's something else which I think is also within this requirement. There are many businesses out there that don't have the resources of full-time health and safety staff.
Yeah.
And if I could look at, you know, a local company, ABC Limited, maybe they do the same as me, but they're bigger. I could look at their risk assessments on their website and I could learn from them.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point.
So what, I don't know, say engineering, for example, say, you know, a firm, a local firm, maybe we've got 8 employees and, you know, we do some form of engineering, manufacturing, whatever. And somewhere on our industrial estate, there's a much bigger business that maybe had 50 employees, 100 employees, but they do pretty much similar activities to us. We could have a look at their risk assessment. We could learn from their expertise. And for me, health and safety knowledge should be shared. I don't think, it's not like sharing marketing tips, because that's a different thing, isn't it? You know, and that's like, we know this works, we sell more of our products if we do this. Health and safety benefits everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to be supported and needs to be able to work in a safe and healthy manner.
I think this is why we need to be starting to embrace health and safety as a cultural issue, not a compliance issue, which I think we often look at it because there's legislation in place, we've got to do it. It kind of hits the tick box. And actually, this is about the welfare of our staff. It's a really important issue and something we should be thinking of a much more wider basis than just compliance with requirements.
I agree. It's to do with leadership, though. You know, the general sort of underlying theme previously around health and safety was, and this isn't all businesses, but for many, is health and safety, we have to do it. It's red tape, it's inconvenient.
Yeah.
It's a cost, not a benefit. And going back to your point about risk assessment previously, why should we do them? Well, is it not reasonable that all businesses should look at what they do and go, well, okay, well, why do we do that? And why do we do that in that way? Not only because it could harm people, but maybe there's a better way of doing it anyway.
Yeah.
A lot of research has been carried out into risk assessment, and it's found that when businesses engage and involve their staff, that it increases efficiency, their effectiveness of work, their quality of work, obviously alongside health and safety as well.
Yeah. And of course, we have a duty of care to look after our employees and do the best for them.
We do. No employer has a right to allow their workers to work in an unsafe manner. You can't do that.
We've covered some really important points this afternoon, but obviously it's a fairly short video, so we can only kind of skim over those. if there's one thing to remember about the process of risk assessment, what would that be? What would you suggest?
I think the most important thing is use a collaborative approach. So our team are going to look at how we might be harmed by work, and that will, and if you do it like that, then you'll get access to information and ideas that you just, if you leave it to just to the health and safety officer, we would never get access to that. If people are helping you to recognise the issues, the hazards, and also helping us design the solutions, the likelihood of them engaging with those solutions and supporting each other is greatly increased. So for me, we need a collaborative approach. That is the biggest thing.
Simon, I think you've given us a really interesting take on health and safety today and risk assessment, and actually a really refreshing view. We haven't talked about compliance at all today. We've talked about why this is the right thing to do for your business, and particularly given, you know, the COVID-19 situation. So I really appreciate your time this afternoon, Simon. I think it's really useful information.
Thank you.
I'm sure people will have questions. How can they get hold of you?
Well, they could. There's always email. They could have a look at our website, or they could contact me directly. It's quite a short email. It's simon@ouch, T for tango, t4tango.co.uk. So oucht.co.uk, or just look for Ouch Training Team on just Google it or whatever, and they'll come up with us there. And we are delivering a number of different types of training. Both mental health and also risk assessment, and lots of other health and safety training online. And when I say online, I'm using the wrong term, through video conferencing. We believe that people learn better together. We believe that. And by sharing, the group sharing together, it would obviously be better face to face, but sharing their interpretations and their understanding, we've got an opportunity to create a collective or a group learning culture, and that is really good for us.
Okay, so people can contact you to find out more about that.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. We've just put together a couple of short half-day sessions, specifically related to COVID-19 and risk assessment, and interpreting the documents. One of the things that I would like the government to stop saying is common sense. Well, I'm afraid none of us have got any common sense when it comes to a highly infectious pandemic illness, because almost none of us have ever experienced it before. So there's a lot of us out there, and we're going, oh, I don't know, what does that mean? And for some it means this, and for some it means that.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what stay alert means, to be quite honest.
Yeah, don't panic. You know, it's straight out of the Dad's Army school of management, isn't it? Don't panic, stay alert. What? Yeah, we need a bit more than that.
But there's organisations like yours, like ours, to really help businesses through this difficult time. Simon, thanks once again. Really good to see you today, and appreciate the time that you've given us. As always with these videos, we are trying to raise funds for charities that are doing some fantastic work during this crisis. We're supporting Dorset Community Foundation with their coronavirus fund, which is supporting charities that are doing vital work in this, in this really difficult climate. We're also actively supporting Bournemouth and Poole hospital charities who are doing some great work in terms of enhancing NHS support. If you'd like to make a donation to any of those charities, it would be greatly welcomed, and you'll see information on that on the comments that go with this video, below this video. So thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Simon.